Sanders, who had 15 carries for 74 yards and 4.9 a pop. This Eagles running game presents big-time problems for this 49ers front. They got to shore up the run game, as Detroit in the first half last week averaged over 5 yards a pop with 17 carries and 88 yards in that first half.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, look, the legs of Jalen Hurts is something you're going to absolutely monitor, but more so because he's trying to buy time to throw downfield to these two dynamic receivers. But yeah, they have to stop the run. I mean, that's what every team wants to do, especially when you're on the road. And I mean, don't sleep on these Eagle running backs. I actually think that they're
good.
I think they're sneaky good, and I think they're really good out in space. This is one of those you got to wrap up in space games, because a missed tackle can turn into a 40-yard gain like that against this type of a team with this kind of speed. It's going to be a very interesting matchup between the 49er defensive line and the offensive line for the Philadelphia Eagles. They've got a couple of new players, but for the most part, this is a highly rated group that's been highly paid, and I'm going to be very interested to see the chess battle between the two. How many snaps does D Ford play? How good does Ibukam look week 2? Can Nick Bosa replicate what he did last week in terms of commanding double and triple teams and maybe get a holding call, for crying out loud? It is all remain to be seen, but I go back to it. I feel like this is a linebacker game. I feel like this has got Fred Warner written all over it in terms of the chess match between him and the quarterback Jalen Hurts. I feel like we're going to have a lot of plays out on the edge where the Niner linebackers are going to have to either commit to Jalen Hurts or stay back and guard some of these tight ends and running backs in the flat.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey, they lead that offensive line of Philadelphia. And, of course, they were part of that Super Bowl team a few years ago for Philadelphia that beat the New England Patriots. They are hogs. They are nasty. They weren't healthy last week. This game will be dictated by what happens up front. We'll get to the 49ers offensive line, because just as much as you talk about the Eagles front offensively, defensively, they're a problem as well. But these running backs here, and I think it's a great point by you, saying that you got to tackle at space, because Miles Sanders is a home run hitter. Gainwell he can go.
Hey, he's sneaky.
And they got receivers. Yeah,
he's sneaky. He played all their 2-minute reps with them, all their big passing situations where they were going to go no huddle. He was in there the entire time. I think he's a very underrated player to look out for today.
No doubt. Both these running backs can catch the ball out the backfield. Sanders last week, 4 catches, 39 yards. Gainwell, 2 catches, 6 yards. So they feel comfortable with them. The tight ends as well. Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert against a banged-up secondary. And then you think about the weapons they have outside. A lot of young receivers here. We talked about Quez Watkins, but Devontae Smith and Jalen Reagor. Reagor last week, a touchdown, 6 catches, 49 yards. Jalen Hurts loves to get the ball out quick. It's like extended running plays where they get the quick wide receiver screens. But there was one possession early in that football game against Atlanta last week where Jalen Hurts went to Devontae Smith like 4 straight times. And they had the chemistry. I don't know if they refound the chemistry from back in Tuscaloosa when they were both playing for the Crimson Tide. But Devontae Smith in his debut, 6 catches, 71 yards, and a touchdown. They got speed at the running back position. They had speed at the tight end position, and they got speed at the wideout position, Shasky.
You know, it's interesting how the game's changed so much in just the last 10 years. Someone like Ted Ginn Jr. comes into the league, and he feels almost non-functional 10 years ago, where it's like, he's just not tough enough to play over the middle. And you see the evolution of the position. Someone like Devontae Smith, I believe way more talented just overall than who Ted Ginn Jr. was. But doesn't his game fit better in this era than it would have a prior generation? You don't have to worry about a safety hitting you over the middle. I can run more of these bubble screens, and then, God forbid, a second, third move, and I'm free over the top against, let's be honest, the weakest part of the 49ers. Like right now, if you were just ranking, what's the weakest part of the team? It's clearly secondary, and I would say it's clearly cornerback. And then I'm a little worried about these safeties playing in space deep over the top. That's not what these guys do well. They don't pick the ball off. They're really not enforcers. So this is a bad matchup. I have a feeling we're going to see a track meet today, B. I got a feeling defense is optional and offense is mandatory.
Well, you think about the Eagles' defense last week. Last year, they were ranked 19th in the league, and they gave up a lot of rushing yards. But last week against Atlanta, they did pretty damn good. You think about Mike Davis, 15 carries, 49 yards. That's only 3.3 yards a carry. They did really well against him. Now, Cordero Patterson came into the game and had some success. Cordero Patterson ran the ball hard last week against Philadelphia, 7 carries, 54 yards, averaged over 7 yards a pop. But for the most part, when you hold a team to 6 points, that's what matters. You hold a team to 6 points, and they got off the football field. They flustered Matt Ryan. They sacked him 3 times. They hurried him a lot more, and they got a future Hall of Famer, Fletcher Cox, right there in the front. Yeah. He is a problem. And
B,
go ahead, Shasky.
Don't you think the matchup today in terms of offensive line play, if we really want to get a snapshot of who's humming, don't you think, forget Alex Mack, I feel like he's going to target Brunskill and McGlinchey and try to lean in that direction. I know he doesn't play on the edges, but I just got this feeling that they're going to target that particular side of the offensive line. I'm going to be very interested to see if Brunskill can hold up.
Yeah, I hope so. Look, it's a great point. It's a great point. I mean, look, when you look at this defensive line, they wrecked the Super Bowl a few years ago against New England. They were the heart and soul of this football team. And you think about who they have on the edges, because this is one thing McGlinchey struggled out in training camp. This is what he struggled out throughout his career. Off the edges, guys off the edges, Brandon Graham and Derek Barnett. They got speed, Shasky. They got speed off the edges, and they come and they hunt. And if you remember Derek Barnett and Graham last year against the 49ers on Sunday Night Football at Levi Stadium, their defensive line wrecked the football game. Mm-hmm. Their defensive line got constant pressure on Nick Mullins, and it flustered him early, and it flustered him often. And he threw some bad interceptions due to the Eagles' front four. That front four is really, really good here. So you're right about not only the middle, but McGlinchey, Brunskill. How they block today is going to be huge for Jimmy Garoppolo. And you know what? If they don't do the job, maybe we see a little bit more Trey Lance because of the lack of mobility that Jimmy Garoppolo has.
For some reason, I've got a lot of confidence in Jimmy Garoppolo heading into this game. I really do. I think he's in a good spot mentally, and it feels like the weaponry on the outside is going to be there for him. Let's talk about one of the key important players, at least heading into this year, who really just didn't make an impact in last week's game. You want to go snap count? Fine. I go passes thrown in his direction. What the hell do you expect from Brandon Ayuk after all the chatter this week, Bonta? I mean, it would be really nice to have somebody opposite Deebo Samuel. And I know Trent Sherfield made a couple of plays last week, but boy, wouldn't it be nice if either one of those two could pop today to really take some pressure off Deebo and George Kittle?
I actually think Brandon Ayuk should have a fairly decent game today against Philadelphia.
Really?
There's a couple reasons why. Where will Darius Slay Jr. be? He's the Eagles' top quarterback. He loves to shadow the number 1 wide receiver. So do the Philadelphia Eagles believe Debo's that number 1 wide receiver? Do they feel like Darius Slay needs to shadow either Deebo or George Kittle? I think whoever's on the opposite side for Philadelphia here, as we look at the quarterback situation, Steven Nelson, I believe a former Raider. I like the matchup with Brandon Ayuk. Avonte Maddox, I like Brandon Ayuk's chances there against Philadelphia. I think Ayuk will have a good game because of all the chatter. Number 1, Slay Jr., shadowy Deebo and George Kittle. But number 2, I think Shanahan will prove a point saying, look, he's not no doghouse. He is talented. We believe in this guy. He's a talent. And in a game like this, you need talented players to play big. This is a big player type of game out there in Philadelphia. So I think Brandon Ayuk is going to have a very, very solid game today for the 49ers.
So if you were looking at the matchup from the Philadelphia defensive perspective, you think the soft spot is cornerback 2 for them to exploit the 49ers today?
I would say so, Shasky.
Okay.
I would say so, and I don't know much about their safeties, Kayvon Wallace and Anthony Harris. We'll see more about them today. The strength of their team is a front 7.
Agreed.
And the strength of their team is a front 4. As Kyle Batts hit some numbers here. Eagles had 23 pressures last week. 14 of them came from the interior.
Yeah, that's
it came from right up the gut. Can Jimmy G, is Shanahan going to roll out Jimmy G this week? Is he going to put him on the perimeter? Are we going to see a lot more rollouts or play action and boots to get him away from the middle of that defense there? Because Fletcher Cox, man, if you're standing in one spot, go ask Tom Brady. Yeah. Go ask those quarterbacks in the NFC East about Fletcher Cox. That is my number 1 concern here.
Yeah. I have a feeling they're going to be able to isolate George Kittle against these linebackers over the middle. And to your point on the play action, it's got to be heavy. It's got to be heavy today. And rolling and booting Jimmy G out. I actually think he's underrated on the rollout to the right. I think that the guy actually can make plays. I'd like to see Kyle Juszczyk make a couple of plays. I mean, I feel like I ask for that every single week. And B, I feel like this is a screen game. Like, they very rarely employ the screen in the passing game, it feels like. But today, it feels with all that pressure coming up front, wouldn't you want to offset that with a couple of nice screens? Get these young running backs the ball in space?
Well, maybe that and some tight end screens of George Kittle. Remember George Kittle last year against Philadelphia, 15 catches, 183 yards. He lit the Eagles up. He lit the Eagles up. He had his way against the Eagles. And I love you're right there. I love the matchup with George Kittle against their linebackers and their safeties. But I got to feel it. They're going to try to double team George Kittle. But the screen game, do you trust these young running backs in the screen game? Because you got to set it up well. Hey. You got to fake like you're blocking. You got some youngsters here. Elijah Mitchell, Jermichael Hasty, this Cannon guy who's going to be active, Trey Sermon. Are these running backs capable of running this screen game? Because I think that's the most underrated thing about the Mostert injury. He was starting to come on as a receiver. Yeah. We saw him make some big plays last season as a receiver, specifically week 1 against Arizona, where he went off for that 80-plus yarder against Isaiah Simmons. So can these real running backs be a factor in the passing game? That's an interesting point.
Well, I feel like the most underrated coach on this entire team is Bobby Taylor, the running backs coach. I mean,
he's good.
This guy, we keep filing everything under Shanahan, and Shanahan deserves all the credit in the world. Whoever this position coach is, who's been able to identify player after player after player over a 20-year career, it's really a remarkable development. I mean, I have the utmost confidence in this man to get whoever is going to be back there to go out and play. I mean, we even saw Jerick McKinnon have flashes. I mean, not a lot, but a couple of flashes the last couple of years. He had nothing left in the tank. Jermichael Hasty runs hard. He's got great vision. He finishes runs. Elijah Mitchell doing what he did last week is one of the more jaw-dropping things I've seen Shanahan do in his tenure as a 49er coach. The guy couldn't even line up properly. Okay, he couldn't even line up properly in the Oakland Raider game. I think he had 3 pre-snap infractions, and he goes out there and looks physical, looks like he has patience, looks like he has vision, and then he has the R2 turbo burner speed on the outside. It looked like he was gliding. He looked so much better in number 25 as opposed to the number 49 that he was wearing in training camp. So look, does Trey Sermon get looks? I don't know. But when it comes to just Elijah Mitchell, who we've only seen one game from, God, I'm confident in him. I don't know why, but I'm super confident in him. And I like Jermichael Hasty. I have no problem with the running back position. That's like the last of my worries. And I think it's a testament to the position coach, Bobby Taylor, because whoever that they pick, that guy is ready to run the rock like his life depends on it. You got to love it.
No, you got to love it. And one underrated thing about Bobby Turner, the running back coach of the 49ers, Elijah Mitchell, he found him. He said, this guy can run his stretch zone system. This is what he ran in college. And you think about all the running backs he's been around, Devontae Freeman, Tevin Coleman in Atlanta. You think about the Denver days. And we talked about this during the week, Shasky, at our show, the morning roast from 6 to 10 a.m., Monday through Friday. This guy had Mike Bell, Tatum Bell, Mike Anderson, Clinton Portis, Terrell Davis, Olandis Gary, Travis Henry. This guy, they just churned out 1,000-yard backs because of Bobby Turner there. So he's a secret weapon for the Shanahans, no doubt about that. The running back position, they are deep, but the pass game, I want to see what they do in the passing game here. But again, Shasky, you say it's going to be an offensive shootout. I think it's going to be a struggle out there. I think it's going to be a hard-hitting football game. Points are going to be hard to come by. Now, when I say points are going to be hard to come by, I don't anticipate a 10-7 game, a 13-10 game. It'll probably, 24-21, 27-23. But I do think these defensive fronts are going to get after the quarterback. And which quarterback can get the ball off quicker, I think is going to be the key to this game. Like, seriously, I'm really worried about Fletcher Cox in the middle just wrecking your game plan. Remember we had who do we have on? We had Mark Schlereth. And he was discussing Nick Bosa. Man, Mark Schlereth on the show, the former Denver Broncos lineman, now doing radio out there in Denver, a Super Bowl champ. And he talk about a guy like Nick Bosa, right? Would you see number 97 Nick Bosa out there? Well, 30% of your gameplay goes out the window, right? And then when you factor in if they're playing at home, which Fletcher Cox is in their home opener in Philadelphia, they all got these white T-shirts, go Eagles. Now you got to throw out another 20%. So 50% of your playbook, you can't even run. That's the type of player Fletcher Cox is too, Shasky. He's a game wrecker. You can't run against him. You pass the ball against him. He reads screens really well. He wreaks havoc. And how deep can Shanahan go into the playbook if this guy is wreaking havoc on that offensive line of the 49ers.
Bonta, he's a fantastic player. He's a Hall of Famer, more than likely. But
I sound like I'm worried. I know.
No. I think it's an appropriate fear. Here's the thing. Look what they've done against Aaron Donald over the years to kind of neutralize how great he is. So that would be, to me, the template. They love to run the jet sweeps against the LA Rams and get out on the edges. Same thing. The Rams really don't have great elite linebacker play. Make them tackle in space. Use that aggression against them. Double screens, misdirection. To me, Kyle Shanahan showed very little in terms of the unique, creative packages last week. It was very just simple, straight-up offense, and they carved up the Detroit Lions. I expect a lot more gadgetry early on in this game to get easy chunk plays for Jimmy Garoppolo in this offense. And B, let's be honest with you. If they're running the ball, the play-action playbook is immense. It's immense. I don't care how great your defense is. If you can establish the run, which this team has pretty much proven that they can do over the years, it opens things up down the middle. And that's where I think Jimmy Garoppolo, for some reason, I've got this quiet confidence about him backing up last week's performance with another solid outing. Like, I really think that this offense is high-powered, and it's probably the best that they've had. I don't want to sleep on Kaepernick and the run that they had toward the end, but why am I more confident on this offense going back to, like, the Jeff Garcia T.O. days? Like, that's how explosive I feel like the weaponry is.
Yeah, and we haven't even talked about Trent Sherfield, but Brandon Ayuk, Debo last week, 9 catches, 189 yards. And boy, did he look explosive. Did he look fast? Did he look physical? George Kittle looked right. He lost a lot of weight. He looks like he's in great shape.
He does.
And we're waiting to see Brandon Ayuk explode here. Look, Garoppolo was good last week. 314 yards, 17 to 25, a touchdown. And you know what he stayed away from, Shasky? He stayed away from the no throw. The Jimmy no throw. As long as we don't see any Jimmy no throws, especially on the road in this environment, I think the Niners will be able to move the ball against Philadelphia. I don't know watching the Atlanta game back, I don't know what their plan was. I don't know what their game plan was, but they could not score early in the red zone, and the Eagles defense did stiffen up in the red zone where the Niners were thriving in the red zone last week. When they got in that red area, they made it count, and they scored touchdowns. I believe they were 3 for 3 last week in the red zone. So Jimmy Garoppolo and company, they'll have their hands full, but they should be able to move the ball defensively. This is where the game, all eyes going to be on the defense this week, Shasky. Let's just be honest here. With all the injuries on the defense here, and good morning to Michelle with the nice breakfast plate right there. I love that, Michelle Shasky. Great breakfast there. I had to go to Timeless Coffee this morning to get my breakfast. But you know what, Shasky? Defensively is where I'm looking at it. Can this defensive line dominate the game better than the Eagles? It's like a battle of defensive lines here today. And I know it's not sexy for Sports Talk Radio, but with Kinlaw back in the lineup, and we discussed all August, this defensive line, it's the strength of the football team. It's the strength of the football team. And they let Detroit gash them for 90-plus yards in the first half last week on the ground. This game, I think, could go a long way to being won because of the 49ers defensive line. And it starts on the edge. Of course, having Kinlaw on the interior, great. But Bosa, Ford, they have to dominate Lane Johnson. They have to dominate on the edges here, and they got to make Jalen Hurts hurry and move around frantically to get him off his spot because he's still only a second-year quarterback with a handful of starts.
Look, B, I want to ask you a sincere question. What tackle has manhandled Nick Bosa in his career? Like, I'm asking sincerely. I'm not trying to be a homer. I'm asking you sincerely.
No, there hasn't been many. I can't name one.
You know what I'm saying? Like, Bosa is who Bosa is. Look, is there a guy who's going to stop him from time to time? Of course, that's what happens. But this dude is relentless, and that's the beauty of Nick Bosa. D Ford on the other side, this is the best he's looked in so long. I mean, going back to the middle of that 2020 season, 2019, he just looked fantastic. He looked absolutely fantastic. And I love where they're at as a team right now. I know that you keep going back to the offensive and defensive line. It's going to be a bloodbath. I feel like both these teams are going to be gassed by the amount of offensive plays that are displayed by both teams. And I got this feeling it's going to be a track meet. There are so many dynamic playmakers. Just look at these two teams. It is fantasy football galore on both offensive sides of the ball, as great as these defensive lines are. And I just think it's going to be really difficult to tackle in space and to cover over the top. I think there's going to be shot after shot in this game. Call me crazy. I got a 38-34 type of a feel to this one.
Wow. Shootout here. And you have confidence in Jimmy Garoppolo orchestrating a shootout for this offense.
Yeah, I really do. Jimmy Garoppolo looked so composed last week. I thought he'd throw so many great decisions just in general. He had one pass over the middle everyone's critiquing. I mean, the guy was damn near flawless last week.
Right.
And I love the moxie from him. I love the sense of urgency, his ability to rip the ball into the intermediate part of the field, downfield. And I love the way him and Deebo Samuel felt like they were completely on the same page, unlike anything we saw in 2019. Although Deebo at times was the number one receiver, it didn't look like that. It did not look like that. And then with the emergence of Trent Sherfield, a huge third down play early in the game last week to Trent Sherfield, to me was like, that's the difference between Jimmy G this year and what he showed last year. I saw more of that in 2019. Let me rip it downfield, especially late in the year. And it was really encouraging to see that specific throw. I think there's so much goodwill to build on for Jimmy G. And it starts with that O-line, B. It starts with Alex Mack and these guys up front.
No doubt about that. Hey, by the way, looks like Josh Norman and Diamador Lenore, the rookie out of Orchid, who played well last week against Detroit, but they don't have the weapons that Philadelphia has. Diamador Lenore and Josh Norman will be starting in your base packages at the cornerback spot. K'Wan Williams, of course, mans the nickel spot. And they'll throw Devontae Smith into the nickel, so we'll see a lot of K'Wan on Smith and Rieger in the slot. But Josh Norman, making his 49ers debut, and Diamador Lenore, the rookie out of Oregon, will be starting at quarter for the 49ers. Look, on the other side, we're going to hear from Jaws. We're going to hear from Jaws on the other side about Jalen Hurts. We'll hear from Shanahan on this week's practices at the Greenbrier. We'll rip Adam Schefter a little bit here because for the second straight week, for whatever, he's come out with some fluff pieces about the 49ers. Who hurt you, Adam Schefter? Who scarred you, man? Who scarred you for the 49ers? Is it Shanahan? Is it Lynch? Relax, Shefty. We got something for him. Plus, Jason Dumas is live in Philadelphia. He's going to give us a vibe what that atmosphere is like here at the Kickoff Show with Joe Shasky, the Butcher, and Bonta Hill right here on 95.7 The Game.
Come into Friedman's Appliance and see the full line of Fisher & Paykel's indoor and outdoor products. And for a limited time, enjoy special offers on qualifying combinations of Fisher & Paykel products. Visit Friedman's Appliance in
whoever you wanted, baby. T.O. jersey? Going to Philly?
The Kickoff Show continues with Bonta Hill and Joe Shasky on 95.7 The Game.
Let's not waste any time here. Let's go straight to Philadelphia, to 215 Lincoln Financial Field. Joining the Kickoff Show with Joe Shasky, the Butcher, and Bonta Hill, our very own Jason Dumas, Philly's own Jason Dumas. Gotta wonder what type of undershirt he's wearing right now out there in Philadelphia. He's in San Francisco right now working, Frisco, but he's in Philadelphia right now, and I'm wondering if he's getting flashbacks of growing up as an Eagles fan. Jason, good morning. Welcome to the Kickoff Show. Give us what the vibe is like. Explain what the vibe is like right now in the 215.
What's up, fellas? Well, I got to say, y'all should be beaming with pride right now because I have not seen an opposing team with such a heavy presence in Lincoln Financial Field in my life.
Really?
The Niners fans are out and about. They're doing a whiteout here in Philly today. This is the first time the stadium will be at full capacity since January 5th of 2020 when the Eagles lost to the Seahawks in that playoff game. Remember, Carson Wentz got knocked out. Josh McCown finished. So it's been a while, but the 49ers fans showed out. I mean, you see a sea of red kind of along the perimeter. I posted some pictures on Twitter. But yeah, the 49ers faithful, they came out and they ought to be proud with their support right now.
So I saw you post to Twitter a photo of you on the field, and it was Josh Norman. Sounds like he's going to get the start opposite Diamond or Lenore. I cannot believe we are here a couple of weeks into the season. What did he look like? I mean, it's tough to tell because nobody's running routes against him, but does he look like he's going to be able to contribute today?
I mean, he's hyped up. You know, he's dancing out to this pregame music. You know Josh Norman, whether
I love him.
It doesn't matter. That's his personality. He's going to get up. He's a gamer. Now, we'll see how he holds up against some of these young receivers in Philly. Philly has a lot of speed at the receiver position with Devontae Smith and them leading the way, and Jalen Reagor. So I imagine they test him early and often just to see, because, I mean, Josh was a free agent 2 weeks ago. You know, it's not easy just to get out of bed, throw on a jersey, and be implemented into the starting lineup, but that's just the situation the 49ers are in right now.
Jason Dumas here on the Kickoff Show on 95.7 The Game with Joe Shasky, the Butcher, and Bonta Hill. Can you explain how dominant Fletcher Cox is and how he's able to just absolutely wreck a game plan? That, to me, is the guy that I believe the 49ers had circled on the whiteboard this week at the Greenbrier in West Virginia, how to slow down Fletcher Cox.
Yeah, man. Fletcher's he's a game plan destroyer. He's been doing it his whole career. He just terrorizes offensive lines, and as he's gotten later in his career, the Eagles have started putting him all over the line. He was primarily just interior when he first started. Now, they'll move him anywhere in the line, and he looks comfortable doing so. And, you know, the Eagles' defensive line goes how he goes. It's him and Graham. They expect to set the tone, and if they make plays early, they really can get a quarterback out of his rhythm. And then if you get out of the rhythm and, you know, you get them with some confidence over on the defensive line, it can become an issue with certain quarterbacks. So Raheem Mostert not being here might hurt because, you know, a way to counteract that pass rush that the Eagles have is just to run down their throat. They've been susceptible to that for a couple of years. But, you know, the Niners, they do it by committee at the running back position. So I don't think while we want him playing, obviously, I don't think that loss is going to hurt them as much as people might expect. I think they have talent. The way Kyle Shanahan schemes, he always gets production out of his running backs. It almost is like it doesn't matter who's back there. They're going to be good on the ground.
We got Jason Dumas with us. He's feet down in Philadelphia at the Link. He's a Philly native, but he works out here, 95.7 The Game, at Cron. He's covering the game today. Hey, Jason, you know the Philly team inside and out. You know the 49ers inside and out. If you were looking at the 49er offense, what do you think they should attack? Should they try to throw the ball to these wide receivers out on the edges, maybe that second cornerback, test him? Or do you think they should do what they did last year and feed George Kittle over the middle against these linebackers?
George Kittle over the middle all day. The Eagles, I've never understood it. A lot of people in Philly never understood it. they don't value linebackers. They never have. The Eagles haven't really had a great linebacker since Jeremiah Trotter. And it's been decades, you know. Howie Roseman has come out and said, without saying that, they don't do the linebacker position all that much. With that being said, the 49ers have the best tight end in football, in my opinion, and that is just a matchup where they can expose the Eagles all day long in the middle of that field. There's nobody in the NFL who can really guard George Kittle. But now if you just look at the Eagles roster, there's definitely no one on this roster who can do much with George Kittle. So I think he has to be Jimmy Garoppolo's safety blanket all day long. And if in a couple hours we look at the box score and we see George Kittle 9 catches, 100-plus yards, I would imagine it'll be a win for the 49ers.
All right, Jason, you're right there in the end zone. You're on the sidelines there at the Link. Out in Philadelphia, you're a Philly guy, but you work in Frisco now. Give us a prediction, and don't be afraid of those Eagle fans.
Oh, no, they love me out here regardless, man. I'm going, I think 49ers are going to win 27-17. I think it's going to be a pretty tight game out. But I just think at the end of the day, this is sports in general. Usually talent wins, and I think the 49ers have a bit more talent despite some of their recent injuries. And, the Eagles, I think, are better than people think, but I think the 49ers are just a tier above them.
All right, Jason, have fun out there.
Buddy.
Enjoy covering the game. Thank you so much for hopping on short notice. That's Jason Dumas, everybody. Works here right at 95.7 The Game. Of course, a Crom 4 sports director doing a great job here in the city by the Bay. Jason Dumas out there live in Philadelphia.
Did you hear what he said?
Let's start here. Let's just start here. 49er fans have taken over that stadium. And when Howard Eskin joined our show from Sports Radio 94 WIP, he said Bay Area fans, from their perspective, was passive. Well, passive fans don't take over other stadiums. We've seen the Niners take over Tampa Bay. We've seen them take over Cincinnati. We've seen them take over Dallas. We've seen them go up to the 12s and raid Century League Field in Seattle. Now we're seeing them raid Philadelphia?
Bonta.
Come on. That's not a passive fan base.
No, Bonta. I think one thing that we underrate is, look, the divisiveness of the quarterback and who people like, who they prefer, losing a Super Bowl, all that can kind of fracture fan bases. But make no mistake about it. We are loyal to our core 49er fans, and we are diehards. We are going to unite on Sunday, and we're going to gather around the television or make the trek out to an opposing stadium, and we are going to gather in a sea of red. You know that, B? Like, you know that. Now, we may criticize the hell out of Jimmy G coming out of an NFC divisional round win of a playoff game. You know why? It's because we want to win the Super Bowl, and this is step 2 on a 17-step regular season program to get to the Super Bowl. And Philly just happens to be standing in the way today. Look, this is going to be a tough matchup, though, B. But it'll be nice to see the red and gold representing in the stands, because Philadelphia was a house of horrors for 49er fans in the 80s and even into the 90s and in the 2000s. So it'll be really nice to hear those roars of red when Debo and Kittle and Elijah Mitchell and Jimmy G are humming on offense.
There's no doubt about it. And remember in 2017, that field right there, Lincoln Financial Field for the 49ers, was maybe the lowest point of the franchise in the last 25 years. And there's been a lot of low points. Yeah. But that game, remember, who did they have playing right tackle? It was like a turnstile. It was awful. Joe Staley broke his orbital bone. Pierre Garçon broke his neck, basically, in that game.
Yes.
Brian Hoyer was awful. Bether was awful. They dropped the 0-9. And the very next day, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan pulled off a heist. I would call it a heist. He traded a second-round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo, and the rest is history. And I believe the Niners came up on that trade. As much as we ridicule Jimmy Garoppolo, you do that trade over again.
Every day.
Great trade. Yeah. Niners ended up 1-5 straight games at end of season. So that day in Philadelphia was an absolute low point. We remember last year on Sunday Night Football where Nick Mullins gets bitched in the fourth quarter. That was a bad loss to the Philadelphia Eagles. So they have, when you look at the history between these two teams, I think about some of the lows, like the Steve Young game when the Niners last won the Super Bowl. He got bitched by George Seifert and cursed out George Seifert on the sideline when the Eagles blew him out 40-8. I remember the Joe Montana game where he threw 4 touchdowns at Veterans Stadium. What about Dana Stubblefield, Monday Night Football? 4 sacks against the Eagles at Veterans Stadium. So the history between these two teams, Nobody ever talks about it, but there's always some hard-nosed football being played between these two teams.
Bonta, at one point in his career, Donovan McNabb had 4 300-yard passing games at Candlestick, and Alex Smith had 1. And that was like 6 years into his career, right?
Yeah.
Just to show you how dynamic they were. Brian Westbrook used to come into Candlestick and absolutely light the 49ers up. That was when they were humming and we were low. I mean, it's just a reality of it. So, yeah, look, this has been an interesting, fun matchup, and it's not one that kind of jumps to the forefront when you come to rivalries.
No.
And I wouldn't call it a quote-unquote rivalry, but it's a sneaky fun time every single time these two teams square up. And this one, to me, is a contrast in styles. You got the young, dynamic, athletic Jalen Hurts against the traditional pocket quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo, who's looking over his shoulder at the guy who is a bigger, stronger version of what the Eagles hope Jalen Hurts is. So I'm very, very intrigued to see this matchup. And it's hard for me as a Niner fan to look at someone like Devontae and say to myself, wow, he doesn't remind me of Deshaun Jackson. Because when the Niners missed on Deshaun Jackson for 10, 12 years, all I did was watch from afar going, damn it, the Niners should have taken him. The Eagles got themselves a home run hitter.
No doubt about that. Let's hear from Jaws. You brought up Jalen Hurts. Jaws, Ron Jaworski joined Damon Rattle and Kolsky earlier this week right here on 95.7 The Game. And he discussed the improvements Jalen Hurts has made from last season.
I've always liked Jalen Hurts. In fact, I was not surprised when he was drafted by the Eagles in the second round 2 years ago. I thought it was a wise choice at that time, even though Carson Wentz was an established quarterback in Philadelphia. Now, he didn't play great last year. He had a couple good games and a couple mediocre games, so the jury was still out how he would adapt to the NFL. But based on what he did in Atlanta last week, I saw a quantum improvement in Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, this guy's he learns and he improves. And you saw from at Alabama when he wasn't the passing guy, when he wasn't a quote-unquote pocket passer, he got benched in the national championship game. Think about that, folks. Jalen Hurts got benched in the national championship game while starting at Alabama against Georgia. Tua Tagovailoa comes in, steals his shine, and becomes a starter, and he handled it with grace and class. He moves on to Oklahoma, learns under Lincoln Riley, said, hey, Lincoln, make me a better passer. He hooks up with CeeDee Lamb. They make the college football playoff. Next thing you know, he's a second-round pick. Jaws is right. Jalen Hurts has made improvements for the pocket, but if I'm the 49ers defense, I'd rather him try to beat us from the pocket than run around and get and break containment there and get on the edges and make plays with his legs, because 62 rushing yards from a quarterback, that is devastating numbers right there. When you throw for 260 and rush for another 60, that can't happen today for the 49ers defense. So I would say just make Jalen Hurts beat you from the pocket.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And make him not hit that first read. Like those pre-designed screen plays that you were referencing earlier, you got to try to take those away.
Yeah, he gets the ball out quick, man. Quick comeback routes, quick curls, quick receiver screens. You got to hit these guys right away, and you got to take that away. You're right.
I find it to be very fascinating that for years we held this truism that, you can't really improve a quarterback's accuracy that much. Like, they're either as accurate as they're going to be at 20, 21 as they'll be at 30. And I just never really agreed with that. It's like, when you tell me repetitions and working on subtleties, you're not going to get better over time. Feels like Josh Allen, to a bigger degree, especially in the NFL, has really improved his accuracy. But Jalen Hurts has improved so much when it comes to ball placement, arm slot, all of the fundamentals of playing quarterback. It's really a testament to Lincoln Riley, the kid himself, and Jalen Hurts, and what Philadelphia is trying to do. And here's the other part of this, B, and I want to get into the coaching here. DeMeco Ryans' first day on the job in terms of regular season last week, I thought he did a pretty good job. They learned some lessons late in that game, some bad bounces. I thought overall, pretty good job. Kyle Shanahan, I've told you this. You look up and, man, he's one of the more long-tenured coaches because he's been here for 5 years and there's so much turnover in the league. You're going up against Nick Sirianni, who we don't know a lot about, and he had a great win last week. Let's see how they adjust to the success. Let's see how they handle game planning for a Kyle Shanahan-led team. To me, Kyle Shanahan and his staff have a big advantage against Sirianni and the unproven Philadelphia Eagles' very young coaching staff. I'll be very interested to see the chess match between those two teams going back and forth and the adjustments that can be made at halftime.
Well, for me, all eyes on D'Amico Ryans, the first-year defensive coordinator for the 49ers. I thought last week, look, you hold Detroit to 17 points. Yeah, you give up some yards in the ground game, and you get gashed right up the middle, but you don't have Javon Kinlaw. Mm-hmm. But I thought they held Jared Goff. They didn't let him throw the ball down the football field.
No.
Jared Goff in that first half averaged less than 5 yards per pass attempt, per completion. I mean, it was dink, 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 and dink. They let nothing go over the top here. Here's what D'Amico Ryans earlier this week, because I do believe this week's challenge against Philadelphia offense is a lot better than Detroit's, and it's more of a challenge than last week against Detroit because you know what you're going to get from Jared Goff. Here's D'Amico Ryans on the challenges Philly's offense presents.
This offense presents challenges to our entire defense. They like to get on the perimeter with the screen game, the QB run game, and they had a lot of explosive plays versus Atlanta. So we have to do a very good job as linebackers, safeties, corners, D-lines, everybody. It takes all 11 of swarming to the ball. So if we do that, we'll be fine.
I agree there, and it looks like Marcel Harris is going to start at strong side linebacker. Azeez Al-Shaair moving to the weak side in place of Drake Greenlaw, who's going to be out. You see reports 4 to 6, 6 to 8. Looks like he's going to be out a month and a half, 2 months here. But Marcel Harris getting to start at strong side linebacker. He's going to make his season debut today against this Eagles offense. That does present a lot of challenges on the edges, up the middle, and with their home run speed.
Yeah, this would be an interesting one today, B. I want to see what these linebackers look like. I mean, obviously, Fred Warner, I thought he had a good game last week, but it wasn't really a Fred Warner game. You know, not every week is going to be your week where you're the guy who ends up popping. I feel like this is the one, though, because there's so many plays out of the backfield that these running backs are going to try to make, and it'll be interesting to see how they slow down these tight ends. Look, Zach Ertz is the number 2, Goddard is the 1. Don't sleep on them. Don't sleep on them, especially on those seam routes. So I'll be very interested to see how Al-Shaair looks today. I'll be real with you, not huge on Marcel Harris. Like, that's just, for me, not huge on him.
Would you rather see Hufanga in that spot from USC? Rookie.
He's kind of undersized. I don't like either of those two. That's not their natural positions. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, Hufanga's a guy that I want to put in the back and let go hunt. Yeah, he probably better in the box, but he's a dude that I think wraps up in space and really enforces. Marcel Harris, he got eaten up a couple of times in those preseason games. He overcommits at times. I think it's a really difficult ask to go from safety playing so far away from the line to moving up and having going against guys way bigger than you. This is a tough one. Like, I don't know what they should do in this one, but we will see.
It reminds me of Eric Reed when he was a 49er, and they tried to move him linebacker against the Dallas Cowboys on Dwight Clark Day.
Okay.
And Ezekiel Elliott and that offensive line gashed the 49ers. And they ran right at Eric Reed, and he just wasn't big enough and bulky enough, to your point, to play that linebacker spot. I get all these teams are going to smaller, quicker, faster linebackers in the mode of a Fred Warner Jr., in the mode of a Darius Leonard, in the mode of a Levante David and White down in Tampa Bay. But Marcel Harris, and I would feel more confident with Hufanga because we've seen him make plays in the run game. I know he's a sure tackler. Sure, he's going to overrun some plays. He's may bite on some play action passes. Marcel Harris, look, I have concerns about him just playing safety in general. At safety, he scares me.
That's kind of my
linebacker. You get him in the box against this offensive line. I don't know about that. That's risky business.
And Bonta, he's had a few questionable late hits over the years, if we're being honest. Yep. So, you can't get commit penalties in the NFL as a fringe player. Like, you just can't. So, I don't know. I don't know where I'm at. Hufanga, I think eventually he's going to take Jaquiski Tartt's spot. But, again, I just don't love either safety guy playing linebacker. I'm more of a traditionalist. I loved what I saw from Al-Shaair last week. How can you not? B, this is going to be a tough matchup. They've got to hit and tackle in space.
Well, let's hear from our main man, Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa this week discussed the difference between Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, and Jalen Hurts.
This guy's definitely different than Kyler and different than Russell. It really is tough. It's a game plan thing. You have to game plan for guys like that and just be disciplined throughout the game. He's 3 years under his belt. I'm no quarterback coach, but Jalen's just getting his feet wet in the league, and he's not really looking to run like Kyler is. Kyler's looking to run, and I think Jalen wants to get rid of the ball, but if he has that chance, he'll take it.
Yeah, Kyler's a guy, Bonta. Kyler's a guy, he'll get to the outside, sprint, and then slide right into you. You know what I mean? Like, Kyler is just a way more twitchier player. To me, Jalen Hurts, again, no player resembles this guy. But if I were to make a comp, a slider, a little thinner version of Russell Wilson. He wants to hold the ball, like move left and right, get out of those scripted plays when they're deep drops, and try to work on the edges and throw the ball to the sidelines. I really like this kid, Jalen Hurts, and I didn't think that I would be saying this 2.5 years ago when he transferred out of Alabama. I was wrong on him. I missed this assessment. I did not think he could play quarterback. He deserves a ton of credit in his own personal development.
You know, I don't see Russell Wilson.
Who do you see?
I see a little mix of Steve McNair and Donovan McNabb, where they knew they could run, but they worked so hard to become pocket quarterbacks. Okay. You know what I'm saying? To try to prove people wrong. You're not wrong about Russell Wilson. Whatever.
The backpedaling move that he does. Yeah. He does this little backpedal thing, and that just reminds me of Russ.
Right. But his stature kind of reminds me of Donovan in a way, and a little Steve McNair. But look, he's in that mode where he is learning how to become a pocket quarterback, and he is learning how to trust his arm and throw the ball down the field. And he's worked. I mean, when he was first at Alabama, I was like, whoa, this guy, man, all he basically can do is throw the ball deep. Can he read a defense? Can he do this? I'm like,
and run.
Ouch. And run, you know, but he improved, man. When you go play for Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma, you better know how to throw that rock. And he learned how to throw that rock at Oklahoma and made himself into a second-round pick. It basically made Carson Wentz tap out of Philadelphia. Basically said, I don't want to compete with this guy. He works too hard. Send me somewhere else. I'm done in Philadelphia. And he's become a captain. Like, when you become a captain in your second year out there in Philadelphia, it tells me those veterans in that locker room, because they do have Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey, Fletcher Cox, Barnett, and company. That shows me, like, wow, this guy's impressed a lot of people in that organization. So hopefully the Niners can slow him down. Look, let's get some predictions here quickly. I'm gonna just come up with some over-unders on the fly here, Shasky. Passing yards for Jimmy Garoppolo. Let's go over-under 235.
Over.
All right, I like it. I'll go over. I think he gets like 237. I'm gonna play the Price is Right game here. Brandon Ayuk, over under 50 receiving yards.
I'm gonna go under.
I'm gonna go over.
Okay.
I think Ayuk's gonna ball out this week. I think he's gonna ball out.
I have no idea what he could play. 5 snaps. He could play 25 snaps. He could get 20 catches. I have no idea.
Who's going to return kicks for this team today?
Mohamed Sanu. Watch Mohamed Sanu get back there.
Oh, Lord. Just kneel the ball, man. Get the touchback. Let's take the ball at the 25. And lastly, defense. Over under 24.5 points they give up. 24.5 points.
I'm going to go over. I just got a feeling that this is going to be a way more difficult game than the 49ers think. I think they'll be up 7-10 all game, but Philly will continue to chase. And I think this defense, like last week, is going to be on the field a long, long time. They got to get used to this. You're going to be out there forever. Get that conditioning up.
Wow, they were on the field for 84 snaps last week against Detroit. You don't want to see that again this week against Philadelphia. That's it for Joe Shasky, the Butcher, and Bonta Hill.
38-34, Niners win.
We're gonna be here right after the game. I do believe the Niners squeak one out here with a late, wait for it, Robbie Gould field goal out there in Philadelphia. We'll be here right after the game, immediately after the game. Overtime, and it's going to be about you, the listener. 888-957-9570. It's about your calls and what you think about the 49ers game today against the Philadelphia Eagles. But in the meantime, enjoy this game. Niners, Eagles, about to kick off. We'll see you after the game.